By now we should all know that a video game trailer isn't always going to tell the truth. The main reason it exists is to sell you something, and there are ways and means of doing that. Some of those ways are called bending the facts, or lies. They lie, straight up lies. If you need a quick crash course in lying, it's the opposite of good, so not good. If you even think about telling a fib, your stock in the human race goes down by exactly 65.4%. And then what are you going to do? Who is going to love you then? Exactly. So remember that before you decide to become a deceitful Darren. Anyway, I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 misleading video game trailers that totally lied to you. Number 10, Assassin's Creed. Nowadays, we're all aware of what the score with Assassin's Creed is, and whether that's for you or not is something only you know. Well, unless of course you then choose to share that information with someone else, then they'll also know. But I'm not here to discuss your personal life, am I? Jeez. If we go back to the start though, this wasn't the case at all. All the trailers leading up to the original game focused on the historical setting or the platforming. What they did not do is underline the fact there was a huge sci-fi aspect to the game. There were a few hints, sure, but it's the equivalent of not telling your new partner you're a murderer and yet you've got a massive knife in your pocket. Not like that at all. The point being, there was genuine hope this would be a history-fueled adventure game as opposed to sci-fi jargon. By hiding the futuristic aesthetic of the game, Ubisoft managed to pull off the old bait and switch to surprise players, but this aspect of it was rubbish, so it didn't work. Number 9, Halo 3. Halo 3's Believe trailer provided a lovely insight into the emotional finale of the Master Chief trilogy. Showing small skirmishes that were happening inside a much larger battle, it showed the last valiant efforts of the human Covenant War and hoped to get nerds the world over to shed a tear over a fake green man. I like Kermit dying. At the centre of this epic clash, of course, was Master Chief himself, who appeared to either be knocked out or dead. It was pretty hard hitting too, and unfortunately, far more so than anything that actually happened in the damn game. While of course you can't take cinematic trailers at face value, you also have the right to assume that they represent at least something about the finished product, and you got some intense battles with Halo 3, sure, but none were up to this scale and none had this much emotion. Bungie's game still released to critical acclaim, which didn't have much to do with the trailer. Number 8, Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite was all over the place during development. It changed designs, it changed the narrative, and it rewrote pretty much everything, meaning it was nothing like the first trailer that had been shown to audiences in 2011. Actual mechanics highlighted here were dropped for the final game, and the scale of everything was pulled back tremendously. There's nothing wrong with that in one sense, there's no point ploughing forward with something that isn't working, but it was a little disappointing to get to 2013 and realise this wasn't what was first propositioned. It essentially had been dumbed down. With that said, still pretty damn special. Number 7, Final Fantasy 13. Visually, Final Fantasy 13 nailed it. Most things it showed off in the trailer looked similar enough so you didn't feel like you'd been screwed over in that sense, but in terms of combat, well, that was utterly misrepresented. At first it seemed like the franchise has shifted away from its famous turn-based fighting style and embraced a more western real-time approach. After all, Lightning was jumping and slashing away like no one's business. There was no way this wasn't going to be the same when you actually had the game. Now, this was technically true as the moment from the trailer was in Final Fantasy 13, but it was there as a cutscene. That wasn't great on one level, but it got even worse when you remembered that Square Enix had even dumped a HUD on the screen to make you think otherwise. That is not cool. Number 6, Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs. The birth of the now infamous downgrading fiasco. It really did break players' hearts the world over. First shown off at E3 in 2012, Ubisoft's new IP had all the bells and whistles to be well above what anyone else was doing tech-wise. It looked lovely. More lovely than the loveliest thing you can think of. Hashtag lovely. Then after 2 years of hype and nonsense, Watch Dogs came out and it was a shadow of its former self. It got worse when you compared the trailers to the game and the differences were almost shocking. Well, as shocking as watching gameplay can be. I mean, it's just a video game at the end of the day. Calm down. That first trailer was a lie though. Of that, there is no doubt. Number 5, Dead Island. How could a list about misleading trailers not include the zombie survival screwjob known as Dead Island? An incredibly artistic and emotional CG trailer managed to get everyone hyped for an otherwise unknown game at the time, and it still stands today as one of the most iconic trailers ever made. That is fact. It's a shame then that the tone of the actual game was the exact opposite of what got everyone talking. There was hardly any emotion in Dead Island, it was more about just whipping a lot of zombie ass. The only real thing that added up was that both the trailer and the game were set in a tropical holiday resort. That was it. Maybe worse than all of this though, was that Dead Island at best was average. Number 4, Brutal Legend. Double Fine's Brutal Legend was advertised as a heavy metal hack and slasher. That was it. It had metal legends, Jack Black and big weapons, and it was going to be an easy to play fun video game you could enjoy just for the sake of it. Then you played it and the core of the game utterly changed to something that was never mentioned at any time before it was released. Even the demo only highlighted it as a combo heavy action game, when in reality it was an RTS, and that is quite the change. The brains behind it basically thought that the strategy genre wasn't sexy enough to sell the amount of copies they wanted, so they just stayed quiet about it, and that's ridiculous. If you don't like the idea, why did you make it happen in the first place? Number 3, Microsoft's Kinect. At one time, the first dubbed Project Natal was seen to be the next evolution in gaming. Hyped up by industry insiders, the original Kinect presented itself as a responsive, innovative and futuristic piece of gaming tech. Then you actually used the thing. Almost instantly the atmosphere plummeted from cautiously optimistic to serious disappointment. Not only was it just a bit meh, but it was missing key features previously boasted about in the trailers. Even worse, Microsoft had the chance to sway public opinion with the Kinect 2.0, but even then managed to repeat the same mistakes of the original. And you know where it is now? Dead and in the bin. Number 2, Aliens Colonial Marines. While the train wreck of Aliens Colonial Marines' release is nothing but a gaming joke nowadays, it's easy to forget just how promising the title had looked over the years since its initial reveal in 2008. Marines' failure was so massive because of how much potential it seemed to have on paper. Sega bombarded the internet with cool trailer after cool trailer, and the goodwill developer Gearbox had secured with Borderlands was surely all that was needed for success. However, Colonial Marines was famously nothing like its trailers, with entire assets being scrapped, graphics downgraded to PS2 levels, and a lot of time forgetting to let you fight aliens, which would have made sense, but instead, you just took on other humans instead. Right. Number 1, Metal Gear Solid 2. You should expect to be misled by Hideo Kojima these days. That's just what he does, even when it comes down to gameplay mechanics. He wants to wind you up one way or the other. During the run-up to the launch of Metal Gear Solid 2 though, he kinda went too far, or some say that anyway. There was nothing to insinuate you wouldn't play as franchise hero Solid Snake, and he was obviously the game's main playable character. All the trailers, gameplay videos and interviews suggested Snake was the man throughout, with advertisements at the time even going as far as showing him being controlled in sections of the game that weren't in the final release. And then it came out, and instead, you were some schlub known as Raiden. You got to play as Snake for about an hour or so, but no one saw this coming because you weren't supposed to. You got lied to, and you got lied to big time. Know of any other video game trailers that totally lied to you? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Then head on over to whatculture.com and read more articles, and follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureGaming. My name is Simon from What Culture, or is it Larry, or am I lying to you?
Oh, wasn't that something? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe below, and also the people who made this lovely video, they're appearing right here. But if you're thinking to yourself, I want to see more content, Jules, then why not look above my head, as there probably is some. I don't know. I can't see it. Until next time.